happens in the water, too. This trainer was dunked and dunked and dunked again by a killer whale. He survived. So did this trainer, dragged by his leg underwater. He made a frantic escape, although he decided to continue on working as a trainer. But 2 years ago, Dawn Brancheau, a 14-year veteran trainer, lost her life to a 6-ton killer whale.
What happens when the world's top predator decides to go off behavior? It can get ugly real quick.
Dr. Jeff Ventre spent 3 years training killer whales at SeaWorld. He now says that captivity can breed aggression.
You're taking a killer whale and putting them in a space that is 1/10,000th of what they're used to being in. It probably would be like living in a telephone booth your whole life, or maybe in your bathroom. You might go a little crazy after a while.
So, unlike a lot of my ex-trainer friends, I didn't think captivity was wrong right off the bat. In fact, I really thought SeaWorld was a fun place to work. I saw a lot of things that I didn't agree with, but overall, I felt like if an animal needed to be in captivity, SeaWorld was probably the best place for them to be. I used to tell people that SeaWorld took better care of its animals than it took of its trainers. So, despite the fact that I saw some things that bothered me over the years, it really wasn't until Dawn Brancheau was killed in February of 2010 that I really started to rethink all of the things, all the experiences that I'd had at SeaWorld. And what I realized was that Dawn was hired 6 months after I quit. She had 16 years of experience working with killer whales, and it made me think that if I had still been there, it could have been me that had been killed by Tilikum or any one of my friends. And so I had to think that through, and it started me looking at all of the things that I thought I knew when I was working at SeaWorld and all of the things that later turned out to be lies. And that's really when I started looking into just what I thought about captivity, and I realized all the assumptions that I'd made about the animals were completely wrong.
The decision was made to move the original baby Shamu, Kalina, away from her mom and away from all of the family that she knew, to another SeaWorld park. And so that event for me is a hugely emotional, it took an emotional toll, and it was the event that I always describe as being sort of the beginning of the end of my time there. Witnessing this baby be separated from her mother, which was in itself very difficult to do. You had to deploy nets to get in between them and get her into the pool that they needed her to be in order to put her in a stretcher, lift her out of the water, put her in a truck, bring her to the airport. And it was so difficult to watch the cries and the screaming and the difficulty of getting them separated. But the worst part of it was, for me, having to stay the entire night in that stadium. I was designated as the observation person above the stadium. You could look down on everything happening in the stadium, and I was to take observations of the night. So I did observations of the transfer and the aftermath, which was essentially spending the night watching Katina, baby Shamu's mom, Kalina is her real name, just alone in the front pool. Just, there's no other way to describe it, but grieving, just screaming, shaking, hunched in the corner of the pool by herself. She had access to the other females that were in the environment, but they stayed away. They stayed far away and gave her the space to go through that grieving process. And I remember driving home that morning, just crying and just starting to question what are we doing here. And so it wasn't long after that I requested a transfer out of Shamu Stadium, and I was moved to the Whale and Dolphin Stadium for my last few months before I did leave. So that is basically the story of my time there. And then
trying to replicate the ocean for killer whales is particularly difficult to do, and even dolphins. You're talking about free-ranging animals that swim, in the case of a dolphin, maybe 50 miles a day versus a killer whale even further, 100 miles a day, and you're putting them into a facility that is way smaller. I mean, you're limiting their ability to exercise, you're limiting their ability to communicate because the walls of the pool are made out of concrete. You also add a lot of human noise, such as from pneumatic gates which use air pressure to open and close. When I was there, I heard noises such as jackhammering, and of course the loud show noises that occur up to 8 times a day at Shamu Stadium. So it's causing deconditioning in the animals. They're not able to effectively use their echolocation and their communication skills. They're not allowed to dive deeply in captivity, and we know that both Kanduk and Taku died from mosquito-borne disease. Kanduk died from St. Louis virus encephalitis, and Taku died of West Nile virus in 1990 and 2007, respectively. This would never happen in the wild because killer whales swim long distances in straight lines with their backs out of the water a very small percentage of the time. In captivity, especially when they're sitting in these small pools, they do a behavior called logging, which means they lay at the surface and kind of just float, and their black surface of their back provides a nice landing platform for mosquitoes. Right now, I'm going to film the camera filming you.
Okay, and then we're going to film you and Carol, so you're going to pass that back over here.
This is Sam Berg.
And this is Dino.
World famous ex-animal trainer, now an awesome person who doesn't like animal training.
I wasn't an awesome person before, now I'm an awesome person.
now you're awesomeness.
Who's that over there? Who's that over there?
That would be Gabby,
Hi, Gabby. Hi, Gabby.
filmmaker extraordinaire.
She's filming a film about whales.
About us.
There's another
About
camera. There's
our
the
journey through life.
Hi,
I
Carol.
gotta get you and Carol.
How
Hey,
we've all
Sid,
learned.
Just running.
Okay, oh, I don't have to push anything? Okay.
See, this is the red dot.
Yep.
Hi.
Wait, there we go. Now I got Carol, I gotta get you guys in. Lean that way. Okay.
Like she said, that's a little close. Dino, can you guys say hi to John Jett real quick?
Hey, what's up, JJ?
Hey, John.
We miss you.
Wish you were here.
Love you, JJ. Wish you and Heavy were here. Come on, dude. Next year.
All right, next year. JJ, we missed you, buddy.
You're making a caipirinha just for Jeffrey Ventre.
John,
You
we
know
miss
I love you. I hope you're having a fantastic time climbing Grays and Torreys in Colorado.
Yikes. Good. Bye, JJ. There's whales here and a lot of cool people.
So I was at Shamu Stadium in 1992 when Tilikum arrived after being responsible for Kelty Burns' death at Sea Land of the Pacific in Victoria, Canada. Tilikum was moved to Shamu Stadium in Orlando under an emergency permit, and I was there. Because I was not a senior person at Shamu Stadium at the time, mostly I got to observe sessions with Tilikum. He seemed like one of the nicer whales, actually. I really didn't know much about his history. I was told by management that the trainer that had died at Sea Land of the Pacific in Victoria had died from hypothermia, so I didn't know that Tilikum was partly responsible for her death at the time. What I saw in terms of the way Tilikum was treated, he's a rather large whale. He weighs over 12,000 pounds, and if you look at the size of the pool at Shamu Stadium, not very many of the pools are large enough for Tilikum to even put his flukes, his tail, all the way at the bottom of the pool and go completely vertical. Most of the pools, only 2 of the pools I believe were deep enough for him to do that. So if you consider the size of that animal and the size of the facility, the pool is definitely too small for an animal like him. And I also know, one of the things I know about Tilikum, even though I didn't see this when I was working with him, is that he's been very sick for a long time. In fact, he was on antibiotics at the time that he killed Don Branchow in February of 2010. And he was also taking in about 10 gallons of gelatin a day. And this is likely because he had ulcers and he was having trouble absorbing nutrition from the dead fish that they were feeding him. So if you think about it, an animal like Tilikum really has no business being in a place like SeaWorld.
As far as the involvement that I've had in the last couple of years, has been something that for me has nothing that I ever expected I would be able to do. I think I've always been embarrassed about my time at SeaWorld, that I was involved in that. It's not something I ever really talked about to many people that know me now in my new life. They don't have any idea that this was a part of my past. So for me, it's just allowed me to feel like there's a bit of you know, a payback, really. So I'm here on behalf of those animals that I worked with that are no longer living, and the ones that are living, and all of those ones that are still there that we need to get out and